Hi, and welcome back to this second hour of Free for All Friday on Focal Point. I am your congenial, convivial, and amiable host, Brian Fisher. Great to have you with us. I want to talk about a couple of things to start off with here. One is a story. I just get a kick out of this story. This is from Malibu. This is from Malibu Beach. This is where Barbra Streisand lives. This is where Bob Dylan lives. Now, they went to a considerable amount of trouble to get the beach in front of their house declared a private beach. They didn't want the proletariat. They didn't want the ordinary peasants using their beach. So they went to a lot of trouble to get that thing declared a private beach that only they could use. So they got it. They got their private beach now. Now, the problem is on Monday, a 40,000-pound whale carcass washed up on their private beach. That's 20 tons, 40,000 pounds. I'm looking at a picture of this whale carcass on this private beach, and it is a stinking, rotting mess. I mean, the stench is filling the entire atmosphere, apparently, over the city of Malibu. So the thing that cracks me up is they're trying to figure out some way to get rid of it. And the Los Angeles County Department of Beaches and Harbors, they say, hey, this is not our job. It's a private beach. So they want a private beach. They got it. It's going to be up to them to figure out how to get rid of that stinking, rotting carcass of a big, giant whale. And I remember reading this. They didn't talk about it, but up in Portland, they had a whale carcass like this. You know what they did with it? In the 70s, they blew it up. They just went there and put dynamite in it and blew the thing to kingdom come. And they did that with a bunch of frozen cows last year in the Rocky Mountains. I remember reading about that. They had these frozen cows, and they didn't know what to do with them. They couldn't haul them off, so they just blew them up. So anyway, we'll see what Barbra Streisand and Bob Dylan figure out what to do on their private beach with that 40,000-pound stinking, rotting carcass of a, what kind of whale is this thing? A fin whale? What's it called? My son would know. It's a juvenile male fin whale. My son was all over the whales on the deal. And on one more item on out-of-control government. This is a oyster company in California, and the federal government, the Obama administration's throwing them off of their property. They signed an agreement with the federal government in 2010 because they were concerned about getting tossed. The land that they were on, they've been there for years, for decades. The land is being converted into some kind of wildlife refuge. And they want to be able to keep producing oysters. In fact, it's the only oyster cannery on the California coast. They make 40% of California's oysters. It's a family-owned farm. They got 31 full-time employees, and the employees live there. And so they signed a deal with the federal government, with the Obama administration in 2010 that gave the Secretary of the Interior the right to authorize a special use permit for them under the same terms and conditions as the existing authorization that they'd been using for decades. So they figured this was the deal. We'll just keep getting this special use permit because we've been here before anybody wanted to turn this into a refuge. And Ken Salazar, President Obama's Interior Secretary, he said, forget about that. Gave him a call last Thursday. You're out of here. So they got like 30 days to pack up. And, I mean, they have to clear the property. This is their homes. This is where they live. So people are not only losing their jobs, they are losing their homes. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Daniel in Warner Robins, Georgia. Daniel, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Merry Christmas, Brian.
Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Yeah, listen, today being the memorial of Pearl Harbor, I got a cousin on the Arizona that I never got to know. So I get a little choked up on this day. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking about when I went in the Army, I heard on the news here a while back that the Gideons can't give out no more New Testaments. I still got mine, even though it's dog-eared and ragged and falling apart, and I got it taped with duct tape. I don't use it, but I keep it because of momentum. And I was also thinking that after we took the oath of office, all them folks what joined and got drafted and everything, there was a Marine Corps chaplain said a prayer and gave a blessing. And I also thinking when I was in the Army, I remember this old boy that didn't want to go to Vietnam, and he told him he was homosexual to get out of the Army, and they put that old boy through pure you-know-what, 6 months of criminal investigation and everything like that. When he got out of the Army, he regretted it, and now they're trying to turn the greenscape into a pinkscape. And you said something a while ago. Normally I agree with you on stuff, but this one time I got to disagree with what you said about the military. I don't think they need to cut the military. I don't think they need to cut the military budget. I think they need to give the military what they need. And in 1968, I had a different opinion of this, but now I feel like they ought to bring the draft back, because that's the only way we're going to get anybody to defend our embassies around the world, defend our borders, because we are in a war against the enemy that we can't see. And one of them generals over there said that it's the enemy that's going to follow you home, and we don't need a weaker military.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, Daniel. We need a military. I mean, that is the primary function of our federal government, is to keep us safe. So we need to make sure they're not wasting money on stupid seminars about Jesus and the Klingons, but then we may need to make sure they've got the money that they need to be able to defend us. All right, Daniel, listen, I appreciate that very much. You know, I've got a New Testament that my dad got in World War II that's got the foreword written by FDR. And he talked about the wonder of the Scriptures, the solace it's been, the source of truth it's been, commended all the soldiers to read it. They got one as from the federal government at government expense because of their service for this country. Let's go to Matthew in Indiana. Matthew, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I want to talk about this fiscal cliff, and I'm going to be bringing up a lot of information that's I don't know if you are aware of or your listeners are aware of. Basically, the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution, gives Congress the right to issue and regulate money.
Right.
Thomas Jefferson vehemently opposed Alexander Hamilton's central bank economic ideology. Benjamin Franklin, the portrait that's on the $100 bill, he opposed central banks. Abraham Lincoln his administration was passing out the greenbacks, which had United States note imprinted on the currency, not Federal Reserve note. Of course, you know, JFK was going to abolish the Federal Reserve and put the U.S. dollar on a silver standard with Executive Order 11110. Woodrow Wilson, he actually later repented after signing the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, saying he made a huge mistake. So I think the core problem that needs to be addressed is the Federal Reserve.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think you'd get a lot of argument on that, Matthew. That's what was kind of the mission of Ron Paul's life. And, you know, he's retired now from Congress. But I think, you know, he did get people's attention. People are talking about the Federal Reserve, about the role of the Federal Reserve. Most people think it's a government agency. It's a government bank. It's not. It's a private bank that's kind of been chartered by the federal government. But it operates in the shadows. It operates in secret. They don't have to answer to anybody for their decisions about the money they print. And so I think it needs to be audited, like Ron Paul said. I believe that's absolutely imperative. All right. Well, thank you, Matthew. I appreciate that. Listen to Focal Point AFR Talk, back with a special guest. Stay with us.